Folks, welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota Escondido Action Sports. Jim Holtis, Dan McGranahan, Ricky Johnson here. We are your hosts here today. If you're just joining us, this is where you catch anything and everything in the action sports world each and every week. Surf, skate, snow, off-road, moto, UFC, you name it. And
BMX.
I'm getting there, man. He's on the trigger. But and I want to give a big shout out to Toyota and Toyota Racing and Genuine Toyota Parts for providing our next guest, super legend. Dan, tell the folks who we're about to see here.
Well, this guy, when we get people on this show, and we've had some amazing ones that we say originated the sport, we're one of the people that you can thank for action sports being in the place that it is, that have driven the nails, that launched the careers of some of the biggest stars in the world. This guy falls into that suit. He's been a name in my life since I was probably like 8 years old. I want everybody in the action sports world to give a big round of applause for Mr. Bob Haro.
Thanks, guys. Wow. Gosh,
that was quite an introduction.
That was big. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Well earned.
I'll pay you later.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching all over the world,
Bob Haro.
Thank you. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for the invitation and hang out and see this exciting show and hang out with my old friend Ricky here as well, and my new friends, you guys.
Yeah, and
we are very excited to have you here. You have not only been an incredible athlete, an incredible artist, and now incredible in the world of just sort of creative thinking and branding and whatnot, all of which are key components to this action sports world that we love. This is a house for you. This is where you belong, and we are happy to have you here, man.
Thanks, man.
But I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna take it all
We're
the way
going
back.
way back.
So
Ricky Johnson going back? No.
What year?
So-
What year are we?
We're going.
What year are we?
1977-ish.
Right.
So I'm down at JT and I'm 12 years old, and I'm just one of their new athletes and stuff like that. And how I got my sponsorship, this is great, is that I would buy a set of pants, and then my mom would wash them and not dry them, but the black would bleed into the yellow, and so she would go back to Rita Gregory and go, these things, you make throwaway pants? And so my mom and Rita Gregory kind of got in this fight, and so they gave me another pair. My mom just said, I will take pictures how I wash them. The next pair came up, bled. My mom drives me all the way down to National City again, shows them, and Rita Gregory looks at me and goes, "Are you any good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty good." She goes, "I'll sponsor you. The pants are free. That way you keep your mom out of
Tell
here."
your mom not to come over here anymore.
Right. So I'm in John and Rita's office, which is right off to the side, and they have like a little 2,000 square foot commercial building, and I see this drawing of this guy doing a cross up on a bicycle and stuff like that.
Probably a Grossi.
Mag
Yeah,
rims?
it was Grossi. It was a
Remember
Grossi.
that? Was it
Yeah,
Grossi?
It was a
Remember
Grossi.
that?
Turned
I'm
down.
picturing mag
Turned
rims.
down for what? No, it was called a Grossi back in the day because Grossi, I think he was falling down, but he did it anyways.
Uh-huh.
Everybody else crossed up, Grossi went down. And so he had like a little picture of a BMX guy, and it said, "Dear JT, can I get some stickers?" And then next thing you know, this Bob Haro. How old were you then?
I was probably
You're just a couple years older than me.
Yeah, I was probably 16, 17.
Yeah, so,
something like
so
that.
he's somewhere right in there, and that's when BMX was just blowing up. The King brother, well, Eddie King was in my age group, and the Wing was a big thing, and Rancho and the bike shop in El Cajon and all the different stuff. So BMX was cranking, like Webco, Redline, all that different stuff was kicking, and you started the freestyle deal, like the ramp stuff, and you were like the king of the fakie. You were the first one that I don't think killed yourself that could go do the. I just remember
Roll
that.
backwards out of it?
The major fakies.
Those are all the basic fundamental tricks. But the whole moto thing that you and I experienced in the 70s, when all that happened and JT was on top and they were that super cool, innovative brand out of National City and San Diego. I lived in Spring Valley, and, before BMX, I was riding bikes like any other kid, but I was racing motocross.
Right.
So I remember seeing you back in the day down at South Bay Speedway. Back,
South
all the way
Bay
down,
Speedway.
all the
I
way
remember
back down by the border down there. There was, the big night, Wednesday night racing.
Yep.
And there was high school motocross going on,
Yep.
and I went to Mount McGill High, and so really what I wanted to do was be a motocross guy. But BMX came about because my brother was into BMX, and I rode bikes, all the time. but I really wanted to do moto. But I didn't have enough money, and my family weren't really supportive of it because they didn't have the cash to really, afford to be your first sponsor, as parents usually are.
Yeah.
So I was racing 100 cc's and 125 motocross bikes, and I was just like any other kid that you see today. And when you go to events or any of us, we see these starry-eyed kids that are super passionate about a sport that they did, and I was that kid. And so the drawing stuff came about writing to a brand that I loved, which was JT Racing. Ended up knowing John and Rita that started that brand, but deeply immersed in that whole culture. So
Well, I heard you read about you quite a bit, and what
you could say a little bit.
in that time, that 100 you were talking about, I read that it was a street bike, and that you ripped all the street stuff off and went dirt racing with it. Like you were just driven to get there, and
Is
that
it
was
Green
your
Streak,
only
like
path.
Bronco?
No, I had what did I have? I had an XL100 Honda. And the only reason I had that motorcycle was because my dad would not allow me to have a dirt bike. He said it wasn't practical. So he said we'll get you a street bike. So I got an XL100 Honda. I don't know what year that was.
So you take the lights off, and now it's an
I had
XR.
it for probably about a month or two, and then I stripped it of all the lights and then put Preston Petty number plates
Right.
on it and plastic number plate, and then I cut the muffler off and made a big megaphone, and it just sounded super awesome and shot flames out of it, and I thought that was super cool. But that's where that started. My dad wasn't happy.
Remember how many people used to ride at Spring Valley? Like
was
all those mountains. I mean, there was thousands of bikes,
Yeah.
man, and everything. It was like a on any Sunday movie.
Yeah.
You pull
Always?
off the side.
Paradise Valley.
Yeah,
Paradise Valley.
Paradise Valley, and there was
Santee,
it's all houses now, but it was you go there and you park. There's like the first one. There was like 3 sections along the highway, which was 94 then. But there was 2 lanes.
Yeah.
And you parked in the one, and there was a certain hill climb that people would try to do, and then there was another area where there's like a big oval where they graded, because what was bitching in the 70s is the housing boom hit and then died. So there was all these places where people graded levels and stuff, and then
it
was
stopped.
done.
Then you had launches.
Exactly, yeah, plateaus and stuff like that. And in Spring Valley, that's where everyone would go ride.
Yeah.
And so Scott Myers lived down there, and
I used to ride with Scotty Myers.
yeah. And so we would leave his house, and what was great is you're a 10-year-old kid on a mini bike, and so you think it's not legal, so you're hauling ass down the road, 4th gear wide open, but you're sitting side saddle. So if a cop pulls you over,
No.
you think you're not going to get a
Yeah.
ticket because I was side saddle. I
Yeah.
wasn't riding.
I was just sitting on it
Yeah.
at 60 miles an hour.
So then fast forward a couple years, JT's selling your number plate with
Yeah.
the lightning bolts up. How did that come? How did you
So-
go from rider this and that to?
So I'll do
artist?
a little of the segue. So the moto thing came about. I had a 100cc, and graduated and got a 125 Elsinore when Elsinores were
Yep.
super hot, and racing Carlsbad and Saddleback and in South Bay and hanging out. I was the Grommet kid hanging out with Marty Motes back in the day when he was living in Claremont, and I was just that 16-year-old kid just hanging out with your heroes,
Right.
and go to Marty's house and open the garage, and he's got 4 Suzuki bikes there all tricked out with, new tires on the wall, and, like, holy cow, this is awesome. So I was hanging out, with him, but I did the moto thing for a while, but I just ran out of money. It's like anything, to be good. I learned early when I was doing that, I'd look around at the pits and paddock area, and I'd show up with a buddy of mine in the back of his truck. We'd have both of our dirt bikes in his little Toyota truck. Thank you very much. And you'd see the guy over there that's got his truck and a big trailer and 3
Right.
bikes, and they got a wrench and the whole deal. And you're like, man, I'm in a little over my head. And you're just kind of, you're like an intermediate. You're not even a fast guy yet.
Right.
So what happened for me is that I ran out of money doing that, and then I started riding my brother's BMX bike all the time. So really, it's my brother Scott's fault, because he had a BMX bike, and I took to it. He was better at chasing women than he was riding a BMX bike. So I ended up riding the bike, and ended up breaking it. I broke his bike, and my dad told me, "Well, you broke his bike, you got to buy it." So that was how I
What was
really.
it? Was it Webco?
No, it was a Stroker. It was a
Yeah.
square tube
yeah,
frame.
yeah.
So that's what I started with, and then, I got deep into BMX at that time. My dirt bike's is a crate now. It's all in parts and things like that. And then in Spring Valley, living in that time in the 70s, they built a skate park in Spring Valley. And all of a sudden, we were skateboarding, we were BMXing, we were doing moto, we were surfing, doing all these SoCal things that we do. And now there's a skateboard park right in my little town, a mile from my house. Well, they didn't let bigger BMXers in there at that time. So we used to wait after hours and throw our bikes over the fence when the park would close down, and we'd ride in the bowls. And then we started riding in culverts and ditches like everybody else. And that's really where the whole freestyle BMX thing took off, So it was kind of weird, strange little things that happened. One door closes, another opens, and anyway, fast forward, here we are.
So, but then the whole time though, because you had a knack. I mean, like I said, I remember your cartoons. I could picture them with the visor, with the Jofa. I mean, you've had an artistic ability since you were a little kid.
That's not going to work. Trying to drink out of that.
I'll keep talking. Take a drink of water.
Okay.
And so, because like me, I have good ideas, but my head and my hand don't connect. My dad is, I think, a little more like you, where he sees it and he can draw it and he can, picture things. Because when you would draw, I could tell how many times you erased it when you penciled in those things back in the day. And when you drew a JT logo, you looked at it, you felt it, and there was no second guessing yourself. Your lines were really clean and fat and bitchin'. So, were you a good artist from a little kid, or did you pick it up later?
So the art part of what I did was really inspired from my father. My dad was a good artist, and but he never really did anything with his talent. He, like a lot of parents, my dad had this passion and ability for art, and he got married, had a couple kids, and needed to make money.
Right.
So he had to get a job. So he gave up going to art school and pursuing that deal, and that went away. But I can say that, for me, like you talking about your dad and probably most of us, our parents can be our first inspiration. My dad was my first inspiration. He would show me how to do things, and so that was really helpful for me, and that really kind of catapulted me into doing art, cartooning, illustrations, because he used to do that. He'd sit and, sitting on the phone talking to my mom or something, he'd make a little cartoon sketch or something, say, "Honey, I love you," or something like that.
Right.
Which was really fun. But
And it was good.
and he was pretty darn good.
And you're going like, whoa.
So, that was helpful for me. And then, you get into school and you have art projects, and I didn't write very well. I wasn't very good at English, was not my class, but I could illustrate things, and so I could improve my grade if I maybe did a report and I illustrated a lot of it. I got, a little better grade with stuff like that. So,
How many Cycle Sounds did you draw the covers for? Was that the little magazine, Cycle Sounds, or San Diego Cycles?
I did a few. I don't, I can't even remember half of the stuff I've done in that respect.
But that was back early, though.
Yeah, I got lucky. I think I got lucky with, companies like JT back in the early days. Oakley, when Jim Gennard owned Oakley, he liked my work and he commissioned me, and I did some work for Jim and some posters and things like that. When Jim Gennard started the company, as you know, and he owned it privately, and it was cool things like that happened. So I got a bunch of little breaks that people liked my work, and maybe my rates were too cheap or something like that. But I got the job, and it was fun. It was kind of a fun little community and of people I was working with. It's all things I absolutely love to do and be around. Whether it was the moto guys or the BMX guys, it was all the same type of deal.
So then, fast forward into the 80s, early 80s, we were up at the big Oakley kickoff party with when he came out with the eye shades, and he had those little brass ones that he put on Bruce Penhall's face, and you guys did a BMX demo, right? Weren't you?
Yeah,
there
I
for
did.
that?
I did other demos. I don't know if I did that one. I did early demos with Jeff Ward, Dana Duke, and maybe you were there. I don't know, but we did some up in Orange County and things like that. We did some demos for Oakley back then. It was R.L. Osborne and myself riding. Yeah. So we were doing that. So, I think the really fun thing for maybe guys like Ricky and I, and you guys as well, is, that we're old enough to remember action sports before it was even as sophisticated as it is, and popular. I mean, it was all, if you did moto or surf or BMX or skateboard, it was all super rogue sports.
Right.
You were like this outlaw, crazy, like, dude, why are you doing that? What what are you going to do when you grow up?
Right.
And we've all probably heard that. It's
Yet none of us have grown up. So
Well,
I'm working on it.
what kind of demos were you doing back then? Are we talking like box,
Half pipe.
like launch ramps,
Yeah,
quarter
so
pipes?
So the deal back then was, again, the racing stuff I did. I raced BMX too, but really for me the bottom line was I was more of a show off than I was a competitor, fierce competitor. So I really enjoyed in between the motos. It was the same race in motocross. I mean, instead of conserving my energy, I was doing wheelies, and
Up and
just
down the pit.
up and just dumb stuff like that. And then
I
the
feel
same
compelled to mention Travis Pastrana right now for some reason.
You can do that.
Same behavior trait.
Yeah, it was, and the same in BMX. So BMX was happening, BMX races going on. You have a lot of time in between motos. So you're out in the parking lot and you're showing off and doing tricks, and then kids are coming around and they're feeding off what you're doing. And
So you were doing a lot of flatland then.
I was doing flatland, and then we basically kind of took the whole deal on the road when, 70s and early 80s when the parks started closing down. That's when we started building ramps because, product liability came on. Skate parks were closing down because of liability issues. So my brother, he did some construction work, so we made some half-ass ramps and wedge ramps and quarter pipe. And the reason they were like they are is because we put them in our trucks. They weren't
Right.
too big. We couldn't make
Right.
them so big. We had to make them small enough that we can take them places. So we, a lot of times we would take the ramps, we'd go down to the beach, we'd go down to Balboa Park or we'd go other places. And all of a sudden, freestyle is now portable. So we can go in, then we took it farther.
Which gave it a lot of power because you could take it into places that, like a mall setting
that's what
or a
happened.
store setting.
And that's what happened. Yeah, then it started like, hey, well, we can do a show right here in this dealership. And that's the kind of stuff. And
we should, by the way.
and you should. So, it's just all these kind of little baby steps that kind of kept happening. Something happened there, and you had to think, okay, how are we going to do something else? And that's, the ramps came about. And then the idea of, man, I should take this on the road. And so 1981 came around, and so I had a few sponsors. It was Oakley and Vans and Offshore Clothing and, a few others. And, they, small little deals. Basically, sponsorship back then was they gave you free shoes. They gave you free shirts or whatever. And you were stoked, though. That was great. You didn't have to buy,
Right.
you didn't have to pay retail.
That's $15 that I have to spend on that.
That's right. So, I put together a summer tour in 1981.
And you're how old at that time?
I'm 21, probably 21, maybe 22.
See, that's the thing that I want everyone to realize is that with Bob, it started so young, and he was doing things like guys in their 40s and stuff were doing. You know what I mean? Having the balls to try to do this and try to do that, to come out with the number plate, and then do the shows and do everything. You don't see kids doing that nowadays. They don't have the
initiative.
Well, no, they got some jackass manager or somebody that's telling them what to do. You were just doing it. You and RL and the guys were like, let's make this happen. So anyways, didn't
Yeah.
interrupt, but
No,
I think
no.
it was an important thing for them to know. You're 21
Yeah.
years old. You've done all this stuff already, and now you're kicking it off into the showmanship.
Yeah, so the deal was in 81, I put together this summer tour, which basically just followed the ABA and the NBL, the American Bicycle Association and the National Bicycle League, their tours, where where all the nationals are happening, grand nationals are happening. So, and I had my little business. I was making number plates and other little accessories we were doing. And
Were you running the Haro brand at this point yet?
yeah, it wasn't even called Haro yet. It was called my little company was called Factory Plates.
Okay.
That was because I was making number plates. That
Right.
was my first little product that I did. But I decided that I'm going to put together this tour in '81. So I rallied my sponsor and I had them help me out. They pitched in $500 each, which covered the poster. And we made posters and stickers. I bought a van and painted it up. I was into Walker Evans. I liked his paint job, so I copied it, and that's why I had this rainbow striped.
Who knew rainbow was gonna go gay?
Yeah, I had this rainbow striped van that said Haro on the side, but I used this really block typeface, and people thought it said hard. So that was always a little weird. But, we went on tour for...
Oh, to have a picture of that band now.
It's pretty classic. So we went, we went on the road. I rallied my brother. My brother Ron, he just turned 16, so he could drive, and I didn't have to really pay him. So my brother Ron, and then a guy named Bob Morales, and I bought these ramps. We were riding. Back in those days, there was the Pepsi. Pepsi had a big half pipe, and so they had this plexiglass ramp, and I thought it was really cool. And we rode it, and it was glass smooth. It was really nice. So I found the guy that made it, and he made us some quarter pipes like that. I didn't think about what happens when you get dust on plexiglass. It's just
Or
basically
water.
like
Slippery.
water. No, it's
ice.
It's just ice. So anyway, where I was going with that is, we went on the road for, I want to say a couple months, but maybe been a little less than that. But we just basically followed the race circuit, and we were the halftime entertainment in BMX. Guys would race. They'd have several thousand guys there, kids, boys and girls racing and stuff like that. And in between, when they're tallying up all the moto sheets, they needed some entertainment. So, myself and Bob were the entertainment. We didn't really specify where we'd ride. So we had to ride on the worst conditions, just in farm fields, because the BMX tracks in the Midwest, it's out in the dirt and stuff like that. So
you're trying
anyway,
to get speed to come make it up the quarter pipe.
It was good. It was really cool. But what was awesome about the time is everybody was blown away, because this was a little niche thing that happened in Southern California that really Southern California hadn't seen it much. And all of a sudden I took it on the road, and now we're in all over the Midwest and Upper East Coast and Niagara Falls, and we're driving around, and we're just long-haired kids in a van, and we're riding BMX bikes, and we're having fun, and you doing the normal stuff that I'm sure you did. You race in the daytime, and then you party at nighttime, and it was a lot of fun.
and you
Hold on
regret
to
it in
that
the morning.
thought, folks. We got to take a quick little break, Bob, and I want to hear more of the story. Do we have a picture of the van somewhere?
Do
you have it?
I do.
Hey, we're going to try to find that picture and see if we can show you even, folks. We'll be right back. More with Bob Haro on the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota of Escondido.
Hi folks, Jim here, and I want to talk to you about Slime Tire Sealant. Racers in all classes of motorcycles, ATV, bugs, cars, trucks are using Slime Tire Sealant to prevent flats, including pre-runners. Smart teams are even using slime inside their trailer tires too. I mean, how many tires do you have? Think about it. Do you have motorcycles, ATVs, cars, trucks, trailers, wheelbarrows, mowers, and bikes? How many flats have you had in the last year? Maybe the answer is none. Maybe you're due for one. How much time and money can flat tires cost you? How about just the peace of mind? Nobody likes flat tires at all. Just pre-install Slime Tire Sealant to prevent flat tires. Slime is a liquid tire sealant that easily installs after taking out the valve core of the tire with the tool provided. Once inside, slime seeks out and seals punctures instantly and repeatedly, and is guaranteed for 2 years. Slime is non-toxic, non-combustible, water-soluble, and does not void tires' warranties, unlike that other stuff in the can. Go for Slime in the gallon for all your off-road tires. If it isn't green, it isn't Slime. Put trust in your tires. Slime, there's no stopping you.
One name you should know, the best place you can go, Toyota of Escondido.
It's true. The best new cars make the best used cars. And Toyota of Escondido is once again #1 in Toyota certified used cars and trucks. Feel confident driving with the peace of mind of a 160-point inspection and Carfax report.
Toyota of Escondido. Toyota of Escondido.
You also get a 12-month or 12,000-mile comprehensive warranty from certified purchase date, plus a 7-year or 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty from original date of sale when new. Please ask for complete warranty details.
Toyota of Escondido.
Toyota certified sales leader for San Diego County for 2014.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens, and you're listening to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota Escondido Action Sports.
You're on, guys.
Folks, welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota of Escondido. This is Ricky Johnson.
And that's all you need to know. Take it, Ricky.
Evidently, I talk too much, so you guys can kiss my. Back to Bob Harrell.
I had a question for Bob. I asked him in the break here. What kind of tricks were you guys doing at that early point? Like
Wheelies.
Wheelies are always good.
Were you throwing bar spins? Did you have the bar spin machine thing?
No, none of that was
Anything
going
like
on.
that?
It was, back then was the beginning. So it was like all the fundamental tricks of
The tabletop, the turn up, turn down.
We were again riding in parks and stuff
X
like
up.
that. So it's doing kick turns and aerials and fakies and
Kickouts.
all that stuff, 360s and and then it was rollback,
Rock walks.
lot of rock walks, a lot of rollback tricks. and
Remember
things
the
like
rock
that.
walk?
Ramp
The
stalls.
rock walk.
Yeah. So there was all these kind of crazy.
Remember the name, don't remember exactly what it is.
Quick story.
Fill us in. Fill us in.
Learning the rock walk for me with these
So you
rims
did
they
it.
used.
Awesome.
Of
Nice.
course. So
You go ahead.
with these rims they used to have called Z rims. And
ACS.
bent the daylights out of them all the time, and then you'd put them in the freezer, and they would straighten back up. That was the weirdest thing. What was that?
I don't know. It's not my product.
You remember that? You remember that craziness?
No.
Anyways,
That
yeah.
was Chuck Stevens' product. Yeah, I know what those. I never rode those. I rode for Skyway back then.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the
gotcha.
tricks back then was like it's probably like, again, Ricky, look at Supercross and look at moto tricks nowadays. Doing a big air back then was big, but it's so much bigger nowadays. It's the same with all the tricks what the kids do today. It's it's got 35, 40 years on it. I mean, it's really blown up and really,
Sure.
it's really gone a lot farther. But I feel proud that hey, I was there in the very beginning, kind of set the foundation, because a lot of the tricks still revolve around those kind of foundation type tricks and moves. So
Well, they do, and Ricky was alluding to it a little bit, and I think that's that whole element of the pioneers that went and pioneered this sport. They didn't have someone to follow.
No.
They didn't have a manager to say, here's the path, son. No, you're
Yeah.
getting off, head this direction.
Or an
They
agent.
truly pioneered every step of it.
You got to remember the first time that in a ramp or in a pool setting, the first time that you ever left the pool and came back in, because the so scary coming back
Right.
in and not hit the coping or the tile and get
Especially a pool, there's no training.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
a
all
mess.
that all started again riding in a skate park,
Right.
cement skate park. So that's where all those basic tricks came from. It's just again learning in a skate park how to ride forwards and backwards, and they had half pipes there, and
they even had
riding in
those
the
tubes.
pools. Yeah, they did have that, and so it was learning like all the fundamentals there, and then later we strung it into a show, and that's where it turned into a show, kind of with those basic moves. But I give credit to skating, because I skated like everybody, like many kids. I was okay, but again, just the BMX bike is where where things took off for me. But again, I took a lot of things out of skating and applied them to BMX, and that's where that came from. So I don't know.
let's throw it back just for a second. What's RL doing now? Have you talked to him?
I haven't talked to RL in quite a couple of years actually. So he's a dad now. He's very busy being a dad, and so he's a little off the grid. And so I think BMX, he had his day there, and he's cool with it.
Right.
A lot of people
Never
try
let
to
go.
they never let go, and they keep trying to relive their glory day. And I think
Ricky
for him,
Johnson.
I think
Jim Holtis.
Reinvent myself.
so, yeah, you got to reinvent yourself. You got to keep reinventing. So I think RL, yeah, he's out there. He's good. He's totally stoked. He lives up by Monterey now, and he's got a business he does, and he's got a family. That's where his focus is.
Talk to him, tell him I said hi, which is
I
perfect.
will.
Speaking of reinventing yourself, so now you take the art, you take all the different stuff, and I just keep seeing all this new stuff that you've designed. You've had go-karts, you've done this, you've done that. So let's transition from you're BMX guy, freestyle guy on the shows, and then all of a sudden now you got Haro. And touch on Haro bicycles.
Yeah.
Then let's go into Haro design, which that's going to open a whole other thing. But
Okay.
you go into building your own, getting your own bike. Let's talk that
Yeah.
transition.
So, again, the business for me was a kid that was a BMX rider, BMX racer, BMX freestyle guy, and an artist, and then just kind of combining all those passions. And I started making some products, and the first product I made turned out to be fairly iconic in the BMX world is a number plate. And the number plate came out of what I had when I had my dirt bike. We had those really cool number plates that were on, and the works bikes where the number plates went over the bars so that your, cables don't get caught on the top. And so I
because
had,
back in the day we were running paper plates with like Sharpie
that was
numbers
it.
on them.
so that
Competition wasn't that stiff.
So that was the first product I made, and I made these number plates, and they turned out to be wildly successful, and I got really lucky from the standpoint that I had a good 2 or 3 years. No one copied me, so that gave me time to kind of grow the little business. So now I'm starting to, I'm sponsoring all the best riders in BMX. Again, it's a kind of grassroots sport, but I got all the
Giving
best.
them a plate.
Giving them plates. That was it. You didn't have to, that was sponsoring. You get free number plates, and so. Now I'm starting to do the freestyle thing. I'm getting traction with that. I'm working at a BMX magazine in Los Angeles. The publisher of the magazine, didn't even realize what freestyle was. He writes an article on it, gives it a spread in the magazine, and all of a sudden this takes off. The whole thing of freestyle, captures kids' imaginations in a different way. And then downstream, I'm fast forwarding here. I start thinking that everyone is focused on BMX racing. I'm a freestyle guy. I want to do a BMX freestyle bike. So
Right.
I was riding for a brand called Torker out of Fullerton up in LA, and I spoke with the owner. There was a family, the Johnsons, and I just said, hey, I've been riding with you and everything's been cool. But I said, I want to do my own frame and fork. And I remember I was a little bit cocky. I remember I had the conversation with him. I said, I can do this with you or without you. I'd like to do it with you because I wasn't sure what they're going to say, and that was a bad negotiating technique. But so anyway, long story short is
You had to find somebody else to build it.
They worked with me right out of the gate, and that was it. They worked with me. I took the basic frame that I had with them, modified it a bit, rebranded it. And that was the birth of the freestyle bike. And in BMX today, freestyle BMX is the largest segment in
Bicycle.
in BMX.
So was it a Haro brand, or
It
was
wasn't.
it under the Torker
no,
umbrella?
No, it was called the Haro Freestyler. And
Awesome.
that's where it started. And so that's turned into be a very coveted bike in the BMX market if you're a kid, or now you're a grown up and you have kids, and
Right.
that was a bike that you wanted back then. And we didn't make a lot of them. And that's the bike. And again, I was the mouthpiece for the brand because
And the namesake.
I was
You
the
are Bob
rider.
You
So
are Bob Haro, and you ride.
So I was riding, and that was the bike I was riding. So all of these things, again, all of these little baby steps that happened. So that was the birth of doing
And
Haro
that was
bikes.
around when?
That was 81, 82.
Okay, that was pretty early.
So 82, and then, so that's, my little business of Haro Bikes started out making small accessories. And then the frame set that I just spoke about ended up becoming a complete bike down a couple of years later. And then we grew it from there, So it's all a little bunch of baby steps and little points that happened that turned this little idea into a company. And I've been lucky in the sense that I've had good people around me. I had a good team of people that work for me. And when my career, like all athletes, you're good for so long, and then maybe you get hurt. I got hurt. I started getting hurt when I was about 24 and 25. I kept blowing out my knee, blowing out my shoulder, and more. And then I was doing the business. The business was starting to take off, and then I had got young guys on my team like Mike Dominguez, and later downstream Matt Hoffman, guys like that became part of the team. But I can remember practicing. I had my office in Carlsbad, and we had our ramps, and we bring our PA system out like you guys have here, and we blast music, and we're young guys, all super fit, and we're riding. And I remember I kept getting hurt, and I had Mike Dominguez was on my team. He's 14 years old. We just signed him. And I remember him not even warmed up. He just pedaling, jams, hits the ramp, and he's about 8 or 9 feet out, like his first hit on the ramp. And I just remember being a 24-year-old kid, 25-year-old kid going, okay,
That's it.
my days are numbered. I got to think about this. Because now I had gotten hurt, and now I was starting to be a little apprehensive, which is bad. Is
And
it's
this
better
guy's
there.
this guy's going to be going bigger than what he just did. Like,
Yeah,
That was
and
his,
he
that's
did.
his warm up, and it made you
Yeah.
step back and go, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm tracking with you 100%.
Yeah, so those kind of things happen. So, again, back on the brand side of things, it was a bunch of little things that happened. It was good people around me. It was amazing athletes that took what I started and then made it greater. And then, we were doing both BMX race and BMX freestyle. And at that time in the 80s, mid 80s, I mean, we were on fire. We had the best on both sides in BMX race and BMX freestyle. The brand was on top.
For me, I started racing like maybe 79 or something like that. And it was Redline and PK Ripper and GT and that was maybe a little before me. I don't remember that one, but Diamondback and, and then you're so obsessed with these brands, and then Haro shows up and like floored everybody as this like super untouchable bike brand. And it was the biggest deal to a young, at that time, what was I, 10 or something like that, you know what I mean, 12, went around like 83 or something when I first started encountering the brand. And it just set so high on that pedestal of brands within that BMX world because of the look and the team and what you guys were doing with the bikes was so progressive.
So a lot of that happened back then, again, goes full circle to the beginning of the conversation with Ricky about JT Racing and stuff like that. So for me as a kid, a 16-year-old kid, and seeing JT Racing as a brand, and I still think of them as one of the most iconic brands in motocross. They really set the tone on what moto looks like today. To me, it feels like.
Exactly.
I mean, when I look at it, the designs are still classic. They're unbelievable. So for me, when I got into BMX, I wanted BMX to have that same feel. And I always tried to do that with, the designs that we did on the bikes and on the gear. I mean, I love, we grew up in that, it was that hero time. It was I loved the heroes.
Heikki Mikkola and
all of
Hannah
that stuff. I
Olsink.
loved all that stuff. And then it really got pushed when I worked at BMX Action Magazine in Torrance up in Los Angeles, because I was working for this guy, Bob Osborne, that had BMX Action Magazine. He was a photographer, and his son RL was his son, obviously, but he was a very good rider. But he was the subject that always did most of the tests and all this. But Oz's deal for BMX was to always show BMX in a really good light. He wouldn't show it with just torn jeans and no helmets. He wanted to always look really kind of hero-esque. So that was one of the deals with working at the magazine. If you look back at the photography of that era, it was really, really classic, and the guys were all kitted out, and it looked so cool. So for my little brand downstream, when I had my own team, I wanted my guys to look, F1 and moto and just look really trick. The whole kit matched, the bike looked cool. So you rolled up on gate, man, you had so much pride. It was just awesome.
And it was
It's like wearing
intimidating for those that weren't rolling like that.
It's like wearing that whole white outfit when you guys were racing motos, and all of a sudden you roll up on gate, change clothes, and bang, you're in this whole white get up with gaiters and the whole deal. But it's a mind game too.
Speaking of moto, some of your fans and friends, Chip, Tim, and Jennifer Morton, say hi.
Oh, awesome. Chip, what's happening, guys? Tim, what's happening?
Tim went to school with you, right? I happened to bump into Jennifer at lunch today. She told me about it.
We are all North County people.
Yeah.
So, no. And Chip and I have been pals for ages and have known his family. So nice to hear from you guys. Thank you.
An artist as well.
Absolutely.
He's phenomenal.
So when did I'm just going through my memories of flooding of this BMX time.
Dan, chew on that for 1 second. Let's go to break so we don't have to cut him short. Our final break.
Brat.
When we come back, it's on the mind. It's on the mind. More of the act. Don't go anywhere.
It'll rock your brain. Ruin shame. And we're all entertained. What can you do?
You're listening to Guy Talk, broadcasting live from the Sport Clips Haircuts locker room. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, boxers or briefs?
Speaking briefly, boxers. Unless you're a boxer, then I'd go briefs. Next caller.
I want to find my nearest Sport Clips, but I don't want to ask for directions.
It's not technically asking for directions if you use sportclips.com to find your nearest Sport Clips location, and no one will ever know. Let's take a break for a word from our sponsor, Sport Clips, where guys go to get an awesome haircut while watching sports on TV. Throw in our relaxing massaging shampoo and our legendary hot steam towel, and you've got our MVP haircut experience. Your head will be as majestic as a freshly mowed Major League outfield. Try it today. Last caller, you're on the air with Guy Talk.
So, how cool is getting a haircut at Sport Clips?
Oh, it's like stepping up to the plate and slam dunking a touchdown. That's all the time we have today. This has been Guy Talk, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy.
Hey everyone, I'm Diana Dahlgren, your 5-time Miss Monster Energy Supercross, and you are listening to the Toyota of Escondido Action Sports Show. Bam!
You're on, guys.
That was cool.
Hey, welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered, I said powered, by Toyota Escondido Action Sports. And, hey, we're going to get right back into it with Bob Haro. Dan, you had a question right before we went to break.
Yeah,
and I
big
want to
shout
find out about what's going on with him these days.
Big
Man, we
shout
only
out to our girl Caroline, by the way, bringing us back in with that big bam. That was awesome.
That was actually Diana Dahlgren.
and-
That was Diana?
That was Diana.
I thought that was
And-
Caroline. Okay.
but
Shout out to you,
supposed to
Diana.
be.
Double D.
As long as we're talking about girls, let's throw it out to Jen Morton. She kicked everybody's butt down in Baja at the Nora race. It was so
Nice.
awesome because she's on a 400. She started like 20th or something like that. By the end of day one, she's in 10th. Next thing you know, I think she got 6th overall, and she killed it.
She's an animal.
No, but she was stopping to take peas and helping people out. Like she
Were you
stopped
doing
out-
that? Were you
the- well, it was
peeing
great.
in the
people-
middle of Baja,
Yeah,
Jen?
Jen, she
Is
did.
that you?
She did. She stopped and peed. But she would stop and help people out that to give them gas because she's on extra 400. And she just motoring past people. And this not old couple. I thought I was in their class with them. In the 50 class was a guy and his wife, and they have a flat. And Jen stops and goes, "Hey, do you want something to eat?" And she's like, "Is that bar gluten free?"
Oh,
and
my God.
Jen was like, I thought she was going to slap her across the head. And then we get to the finish line that day, and this lady's there. She's knocking down beers. I'm like, "Hey, babe, you know what's in beer? A lot of gluten." So, anyways, segue, Jen Morton, Studette, killed it. Thank
Bob
you,
Haro.
Baja Bound. Now, Bicycle Company. It's up and ripping.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I had a
my
question.
bad.
I just getting flooded with all these memories because BMX was such a big part of my life at one point. And one of the things that stands out the most to me, and I don't have context for this, and I don't think this was your company, but when landing gear showed up, the forks.
Right.
What was
SE.
that? That was SC?
That was SE Racing.
Okay.
That was Scott Breithaupt.
That was a big deal for me. Those things were like special.
He just went back in a time machine right now.
I'm
Look at him smile on
living
his
like
face.
I had the big white crossbar. I'm just remembering that thing.
Those were probably
The
CW.
the bear claw forks, the bear claw pegs, the 3-piece cranks. When I got the 3-piece cranks, oh,
I think that was such a fun part of, sport back then is, one is doing it, but it's tricking your ride out.
Oh,
Buying
totally.
going to the shop and just hanging out at the shop.
Haro's the king of
and
accessories.
just marveling at, I just need to have that, and you'd save your money and you'd go in and you have to buy all that stuff. So let me tell you a quick story on that note. So when I was a kid and I was racing motocross, I wanted Torsten Hallman gloves. They were so cool. They were
which is now the company Thor.
Right. They were the most awesome gloves, and I remember Motocross Action magazine. I'm 16 or 17. I'm living at home. My dad's sitting there watching TV and reading the paper at the same time, and I had this Motocross Action magazine. I come in, I said, "Dad, I wanted to show you. These are the gloves I want to buy." And he moves the magazine down and looks at him. He goes, "Just get some gardening gloves. Those will work fine." And I remember it just like
you don't get
it just crushed me, man. I remember holding the magazine and walking back into my bedroom, and I ended up buying them but I never showed my dad because he would have been mad at me for buying those. So anyway,
Rocking the gardening gloves through the living room?
No, yes, yeah, that was my.
Those
pops.
are the ones that turned your hands blue, right?
Yeah, they did. The same when we rode the leathers. Remember the leathers we rode,
Turn
and
your
your legs were
blue,
all
yeah.
there. Yeah,
So Bob,
the dye would come off.
We're running out of a little bit
No
of time,
worries,
and
no
we could have
worries.
gone on for hours.
Sorry.
But at a certain point, you
I gotta shut
sold
up?
sold the bicycle company, and you've been doing so many other things that I would have hit on since then, from motorsports, broadcasting, all other kind of cool stuff. I'd like you to hit on a little bit of that as well.
So, okay, I got to put my speech together here. So, in 93, I had sold Haro bikes. I was done, and I had a non-compete. So it's pretty standard in business. They don't want you to be in the business and compete against your former company.
Right.
So I had a couple years where I couldn't do anything in bicycles, in BMX particularly. And I segued into the motorsports industry, and I started, I had motorcycle brands and race teams and race tracks. In a pretty short span of time, Laguna Seca was my client, Daytona Speedway was my client. I was working with Penske Motorsports, AMA Pro Racing, I was doing all their print ads. I was doing some TV for them. Laguna Seca, they were my client for 6 years. I did their radio, TV, print, event signage. We did all of that. So I had a small agency in Cardiff in North County. And so when I segued out of BMX, I got really swept away in other sports that I really liked, And then downstream, I started doing some stuff in MotoGP. I loved MotoGP. It's really cool. I started a little brand called Axio, AXIO. We made these really high-tech backpacks, and I liked MotoGP, and they were aerodynamic, and I had a Ducati, and I thought it all would be really cool. So I started doing that kind of stuff. So, I guess post Haro bikes, I took all this crazy stuff that I learned from doing my own brand because I never went to college. The School of Hard Knocks was starting a little company, having athletes on your team and riding with you and touring the world and the nation riding on a bike and making your own products and then marketing them. So when Haro Bikes was done, I segued into the professional world and started working with, all these different brands and motorcycle brands and car brands and stuff. And it was really awesome, And the funny thing about, all of a sudden segueing and working with all these different brands is the common thread in so many of those meetings was BMX. So many times I'd sit with product managers or brand managers or owners of companies, and they had
Falls right back to BMX.
They had a BMX story. They're like, "Are you Bob Haro, like the Bob Haro bike guy?" Yeah, I'm that guy. And like, dude, I had one of your bikes. Or hey, I saw you in '83, and you did a show in Little Rock, Arkansas. You were at the XYZ Mall, and holy wow, okay, cool, nice to see you again. But now they're grown up.
Or what is ET like in person?
Yeah. So yeah, all this kind of crazy stuff happened, but it's been cool. It's been a fun and a good ride.
So now let's segue, because you're doing some work with Toyota, and we're here at the Toyota the Action Sports, powered by Toyota Escondido. So what's your relationship with Toyota at this point?
It's we're in the courtship phase of our relationship.
So you're just
They're
talking.
dating.
Yeah, I'm just trying to mind my P's and Q's right now.
Well, you're not leaving the cage. If you notice, this is shaped like an octagon.
Does this
we have
thing
a lot.
drop down?
We have a lot of fighters, and so you're pretty much your negotiations.
Excellent.
It's going to be like a free number plate.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
You're going to get a free number plate. So what's in the future besides, let's say, Toyota's? Obviously, you're in the courting stage there. But
And
what else
speaking
is
of
new?
which, I want to thank Scott Nunez from Toyota for making this happen. He's down here, cool guy, always been a big supporter of what we do, big in motorsports, and super stoked for him bringing us together.
Well, I met Scotty a couple years ago at the SEMA show in Vegas. So I was just walking like, anybody at the show, just walking around marveling at all the cool cars and things like that. And I think I was in the concept car section or whatever you had going on there. And Scotty stopped me, said, "Hey, are you Bob Haro, that Bob Haro guy?" Again, I got that same story, and that's where we started the conversation. So I'm hoping that
He said
we
you
can do
came up
something.
to him and said, "Are you Scott, that Toyota guy?"
It is.
That's the story he told. No, I'm kidding.
He's a Troy Lee guy then.
Did you realize how broad and how impactful your presence in BMX was? Does it astonish you when things like that happen still?
I don't know. I just feel I'm super humble and super thankful, and you know, I appreciate, you know, being involved in a sport that I love and still love today, and still do some things in the sport. You know, you're just kind of fortunate to be able to hang out with young people and enthusiastic people that are passionate about a sport, and you know, I'm super stoked with all of that. I don't take it any of it for granted. I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
Like they said in Dust to Glory, if I knew I was making history, I would have paid closer attention.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, like you said, you were just going from one thing to the next and to the next, and then we're gonna turn right here. Oh,
All of
now
a
we're
sudden,
doing
it's
this.
a heck of a path.
Yeah.
No, it's an unbelievable story, and so we're definitely, and I get to be here because I talk so much. We gotta have
We
you back
love
on
you,
again.
Ricky.
He doesn't forget things, by the way.
So those guys can go on vacation or something like that. You and I'll bro out, and we're gonna go back
We'll
to
bring
like 70.
we'll bring tequila.
We'll bring tequila and Jagger and a couple of the old boys.
That'd be great. So how much time? We got 30 seconds.
about a minute.
Okay,
We got a minute or so.
so Ricky was an early hero of mine, and not to blow smoke up his backside, but you know,
He uses that same exact term.
But back in the day, again, racing at South Bay Speedway, I remember, you know, being on the gate or you know whatever, and or sitting in the stands or sitting in the pits and hearing Ricky's name over the loudspeaker at this track. It was just really cool, you know, and so. You know, I've always been a fan of Rick's and what he's done and accomplished, and so it's just, I don't know, it's a crazy fun ride. And as I said, you know, Marty Moats and guys like this that I rode with, and was just a bright-eyed kid hanging out. I mean, you know, my story's no different than any other kids out there. I was just a wide-eyed kid that was a fan of sports.
So did you guys do the bike racing? So when I went to South Bay Speedway as a kid, there was always the Smash 'em Up Derby and the figure eight train races and all that
Well,
kind
I started
of stuff.
racing there when I was 9. That's where I actually met Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy, right, yeah.
His mom and dad, Gary, worked at Lucky Yamaha.
Oh, wow.
And then we met them at the front, and then Kathy was pregnant with Jimmy, and then raced through there, then turned pro, and then won the jump contest for the stereos and all the crazy stuff. So it was the place, and what was crazy is you get guys like Marty Smith was like, I remember when he showed up with first 522 when he first got his factory ride. Brock Glover used to run a Green Street Kawasaki in the 100 class, and then had to go to the 125, and so it was nuts, man, and you couldn't see for anything because the lights were so bad.
The Cajon zone was so on fire. San Diego was so on fire with hot riders. What Murrieta, you know, is, I mean, it was amazing. Yeah.
Bob, where can people follow you until you come back for part 2?
So, I mean, I'm easy to find on Facebook and Twitter, just under Bob Haro. It's easy.
Bob Haro.
I stayed up late that night trying to figure out a domain name. But, you know, in my business, it's Haro Design again.
And I got to give a shout out to our buddies at Alliance too. I know they're mutual friends, and we'll see you at the Lost Abbey really soon.
We will.
Bob Haro, ladies and gentlemen, an icon, and thanks so much for coming out. Alex Ortiz, all of our great guests, all of you folks for listening. Rick, thanks for coming back.
Always
a pleasure, my
pleasure.
friend. And again, big thanks to Scott Nunez from Toyota for bringing Bob down and supporting the show. And hey, catch us here every Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30. Don't forget, to subscribe to the podcast. Follow all of our social media at TE Action Sports. And we got a great show next week. The whole Star Racing Yamaha team, the Backbones, they'll all be here live in-house. You definitely don't want to miss that. UFC Fight Night Saturday. Holly Holmes coming back, and I think she's going to take the big win. Hey, for all of us here at the Action Sports Show, hope you have a great week. Remember, don't text and drive. See you next time right here, the Action Sports Show. Have a good one.